Well, welcome to the second video in our template video series. My name's Sam and I'm the country manager of TaxDome. And in that first video, when we talked about the advantages of our workflow and how these advantages could be applied to perhaps the particular pain points you could experience at your firm, in this video, we're going to be going through an in-depth walkthrough of the corporation tax workflow, which also follows a similar structure to some of the other workflows that we've created. So these have been designed by myself and James, who's joining us on the video today. He's an ACCA accredited accountant. James, hi there. Thank you very much for your help. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Lovely. Thank you, Sam. And welcome everyone who is joining us today for the recording. My name is James. I'm an ACCA qualified member. And when I was doing my examinations, I used to work in practice. And you'll be pleased to know I used to help clients file their corporation tax return. So it's really nice to work in partnership and to collaborate with TaxDome on this project. And looking forward to help you out, to show you the benefits of the workflow that you could embed within your actual practice.
Thank you very much, James. And the screen we're currently looking at now is the current layout of the corporation tax workflow. Every workflow and automation that you will use on TaxDome will have the similar structure with these individual grey boxes, which will indicate a separate stage in the workflow. And for each stage, you can associate different automations, for example, sending an email, sending a letter of engagement, or even an invoice. So we're going to start by going to the edit page to see how this has been structured, and then we'll walk through this from the perspective of both the firm owner and the client too. And now at the top, we talked before about the custom schedules, which will allow you to automatically add these accounts to the workflow. So now we're on the edit page. In the top right-hand corner, you can see where we can really customize these for each of the clients that we're adding to the workflow. And if I scroll down, you'll see the new layout of our workflow automation platform. What do you think about the difference between how it's currently laid out and the previous layout?
Well, I think the current layout, how we've worked it, is going to be really beneficial to any managers or directors that want to keep on top of, and we've all been in that sort of situation. You've got a lot of clients on the same go, and you've got a lot of them who've got the same sort of year end, and you've maybe got actual different employees, some were working in the office, some working from home. You've got to understand what stage each client is actually at. So as you can see on the screen, we've got everything from requesting the documents at the start, whether that's a completely new client or one we've dealt with before, and then it moves through the flow that you'll allocate the tasks, going through all the way from the draft to getting the final review and approval from the client, and then finally submitting on time so that they don't incur any penalties or fines.
Thank you very much. So you talked about that requesting document stage. Let's go ahead and actually request these documents from one of our clients and see how this process would really work in practice. So what we can do is we can go to the workflow tab on the left-hand side, which will give us a list of all the services that we currently have automation set up for. I'm going to select the corporation tax workflow, the one we're going to be looking into in great detail today. And now to add an account, I could do this as a bulk action from the CRM. I could do this as a quick action from the plus new button here, or to save time, I could just add an account by using the button here, which I'm going to do now. As soon as I click this, it's going to bring out the box from the right-hand side. And here we can see the custom fields that we can add and populate information regarding the client's account. So I'm going to select the account I'd like to add, John's Bakery. And we can also use job templates to populate this card with information. For example, due dates, job assignees. This person is going to be responsible for viewing this job as a whole as it moves through the workflow. So let's go ahead and add a quick template. What we can do is just simply hit add, and that's going to add the job to the first stage of the workflow. We're going to be prompted and told these are the automations that are going to be triggered. Go on, simply hit move, and we can see the job being added to the first stage of the workflow. So what's going to happen in this first stage? Well, we're talking about that document request. That's going to be processed by the organizer here, which is essentially a digital form on TaxDome used to request those important documents and information. You can request this information by using number fields, date fields, checkboxes, tick boxes. So we give you as much flexibility to collect everything you need. We're also going to send them an email to let them know that we've requested the information and prompting them to log into their portal to then provide that. We've also updated the account tag. So John's Bakery is the account. And by adding this specific tag to his account, it will then help us to apply bulk actions later on. So let's take a look at the client portal and their side too. So now we're on the client portal, which is where we're going to see the automations coming in. And we can also see that the client has received an email prompting them to log into their portal and complete this organizer. So to send us the information requested. So James, what advantage do you think it has being able to use email automations in prompting clients?
Well, for any manager, director, when you've got so many things going on, managing your team, the ins and outs of a practice, these little emails that would originally have to go out to a client in the past are now done through the automated system, through TaxDome. So it's another thing that you can just use automation to your advantage so that it can free up more time to actually work on clients who potentially may have a more pressing deadline for you to reach. As you can see on the screen, it's really easy to follow. And then it's the ball's put in John's Bakery's court so that they can now provide those requested documents. And then once they've sent it in to us on there, we can then update the workflow.
It's automating the admin roles, isn't it? So prompting them, essentially giving them additional reminders, keeping them updated in the flow, which is really important from that client experience perspective too, because you want to be giving your clients the best customer experience there is. So jumping back to the client portal, let's have a look at how we would really request this information and filter through it as a client. So I've logged into the portal. We see an automation here for the corporation tax organizer. So let's click on that to be taken directly through to that page. Now we're prompted here to pre-fill this organizer from previous year's answers. So that's going to prevent things like duplicate data entry. And as TaxDome is fully on the cloud, your clients can actually complete these organizers on the go on their mobile application. So it's going to make things really convenient for them. I'm just going to really quickly scroll down. And James, what I like about the templates we've created is the individual sections. So it's really clear for the clients to see what they need to send in, because I imagine that's sometimes challenging for the clients.
Yes, well, for any manager or director who'll be watching this recording, you'll have felt it on a Friday when you send out those emails which you would have originally had to have done manually, and you're thinking to yourself, hang on a second, where are we at here? What are we at in terms of the process? Whereas the advantage, as you can see on the screen through TaxDome, is you get that clear indication which stage we're at, and also it's really helpful in terms of a timely manner that it shows you how long that the client or yourself are actually at that stage. So if there are things that are more pressing or it's been sat at a stage for too long, then you can go back to it, amend it, and then speak to the client as well to make sure that we get to that filing return stage at the end.
Really good point. And I remember as you were helping us to develop these, it's also really important to consider any HMRC correspondence with the client. So we really try and cover all bases with the separate sections of this organizer. Now let's quickly talk about another pain point. As the client, let's imagine that we've completed this organizer and we're going to send it back to the firm. Now, James, you always tell me at your firm how people wouldn't send the right documents across. They'd forget to send something. That's a common occurrence, isn't it, at any accounting practice?
Oh, any accountant who, whether it's a completely new client or a client you've been working with for numerous years, they will inevitably forget to send in some form, report, file, whatever it may be, because you've got to think from their shoes, they're really good at their business on there. And usually the sort of bookkeeping and the records, they just want to get on with what they're good at on there. So the review file stage is really important, that it's going to save yourself, your staff, a load of time, that we can get that draft return sorted as quickly as possible and turned around and also being complete, which is the key thing.
Absolutely, a really valid point. And what I want to talk about next is a feature that we really touched on briefly in the last video, and that's TaxDome's auto move feature. So what the auto move feature does is essentially recognize when your clients complete actions on their portal, and it will move their job through the workflow accordingly. So we're going to see both the before and the after. Right now we're on the before stage, because in this first step, we sent an organizer to the client to request that information. Now the client's completed this organizer. When I refresh this page, this job will have moved to the second stage and will have triggered the next two automations, which is a task to review the uploaded documents and another email sent to the client to let them know that we've received that submission and we're going to review all the uploaded documents and let them know if anything is missing. So let's go ahead and refresh the page. And this is the feature that's really going to save you the most time, because it's going to prevent you from having to log in and check, has client X signed their letter of engagement, has client Y requested and uploaded all of the relevant documents. This is going to be key, and it will save you loads of time. So now the job's in the second stage. We're going through that process of reviewing the documents. Now, as we spoke about, James, you may need to re-request things. And we have a couple of features that are specific to that process, which is really going to help streamline that altogether. So let's take a look at how you would re-request information for an example. So what I really like about the workflow personally is that it's really conveniently keeping everything in one place. Now, for this account that we have, we've seen that they've completed an organizer, but I might not want to go to their CRM, search through the different files to find that. I want to find it really quickly and conveniently. So what you can do is simply click on the job card. Again, we'll open a box from the right-hand side, and we can scroll down and access any organizers, tasks, invoices, contracts. It's all going to be kept in one convenient location for us. So we can see where the client submitted their information. We can click on the organizer and be taken directly to it. And let's say they've forgotten to send a document. So what we can do is go to these three dots at the top, click on Unsubmit, provide some context, and unsubmit that to the client portal. And let's quickly jump back to the client side and see how that appears on their end. And now we're back to the client portal. We can see that automation at the top and that re-request of information. So the client can simply click to access the organizer again and then refill that information. We can hit save and submit. And let's go back to the firm side. And now we've re-requested that information. Let's take a look at the next few steps of this workflow. So now we've requested all the documents. We can now mark this task as complete for reviewing the files. We can access that again by clicking on the job card, by simply going under tasks and changing the status to complete. We've now marked that task as complete, and already we see that new task being created just above it. So if I click back to the workflow, because of auto move, because we've marked that task as complete, it's now moved the job accordingly in the workflow, where we have this new task to prepare the draft return. And now, James, when we were working on these templates, you said it was the responsibility for perhaps an apprentice most times to prepare a draft. Is that correct?
Well, coming on to the tasks, what we've just seen at the bottom there, usually what would happen is a manager would review the work produced by an accounts assistant. It could be an apprentice, it could be another manager, depending on the level of the client and the amount of revenue they may be generating on there. But as you can see, this is where the benefits of TaxDome really come to the forefront, that you can assign who is in charge of actually completing that task, versus traditionally in the past, you'd maybe have to email someone or chase them up to see if they've actually called the client. The benefit here is it's all in one place. Everyone has access to where everyone else is at, and then the job shifts down the workflow, so you're all on the same page for it on there, which again is going to help out the client. You're going to get the job done more effectively and efficiently, dealing with their time, and also from your own perspective from running your accounting practice.
Exactly. We talk about automating that task assigning. Obviously, we're at the preparation stage, which, as we talked about, could be normally the responsibility of an apprentice or an outsourced accountant, but then we come to this review and approval stage. So let's go ahead and mark this task as complete and just see that automation of task assignees, again, helping you save time in allocating and delegating tasks within your practice. So going to the tasks, again, we've reviewed the uploaded documents, we've started preparing the return. We can complete that task, which will again, from auto move, will then move the job into the next stage of the workflow. So here we have the new stage created. And if we go back to the workflow now, we can see that the job has moved to the review and approval stage. And if we click on the automations, we can see that this task has actually been assigned to a different team member. So what we can do is click on their job card again, and by scrolling down under the task tab, we can see the different assignees for the last 2 tasks that we've created. So preparing the draft was the responsibility of David Wilson, but the review and approval stage has been assigned to Christine Parker, perhaps the firm owner. So again, you can really automate that admin role again of assigning tasks between the firm, and it's all automated from auto move and from the preparation of these templates beforehand, which is how we've managed to achieve this circumstance. So now Christine needs to review and request the approval from her client. How would she go about this? What she could do is simply click onto the task, which is going to open up the view of the particular task and the different subtasks assigned to it. So we can really see a breakdown of the work that needs to be done. So here, we know that Christine needs to review the apprentice or outsourced accountant's work before uploading the return to the portal and requesting the signature. Now, we do have other ways of requesting approvals, and we do have a streamlined approval feature, which you can look into more information on our help articles. But in this current situation, it's more time consuming and it fits the processes of this firm to just send a message requesting the client to then review that return and ensure they're happy with it before we go into that filing process. So on the list here, we can see we need to send the client an approve your corporation tax return message. They're going to be able to review that return, review the payments that are needed for HMRC and the dates those payments are required to be made. So let's go ahead and create that message now. So if we want to start any quick actions on TaxDome, we can do that from the plus new button. We'll scroll down here to messages. Again, we choose the account we'd like to send the message to. Choose the template, which is the approve your corporation tax return. From here, we have short codes which help to populate the email with information from the CRM. And we can input here the amount owed to HMRC and the payment deadline as well. If I scroll down just a little bit further, you can see that we can also add reminders. And here is where I would upload their corporation tax return for them to review it. And they also have these client tasks here, which they can go ahead and check off once they've completed that. We can go ahead and create that chat. And let's go ahead and jump back to the workflow now briefly. So right now we've sent that message to the client and we've asked them to review their corporation tax return. Let's keep everything all together and let's link that message to the job card for our convenience later down the line. So to link objects and documents to the job card, simply click on it. And in the top right-hand corner, we see this plus link button that we can click here. And we can select the top message that we just sent. And if I go back, that's going to link the message below. So we'll always have it in the same job card for the convenience of firm owners and accountants. James, what do you think the benefits are of having this structured approach where we're able to localize all the documents in one place?
Well, I mean, from anyone who's been very busy in an accounting practice, where sometimes you've just having to focus in drafting those emails, having a template that is set up for you, like we've just demonstrated on the screen, with all the key information on there. And you can also tailor these as well to maybe you want to just tinker around with it to be a bit more bespoke to that particular client of yours. And it just reduces the amount of potential errors. And the last thing you want to happen with a client of yours is to maybe make a spelling mistake on there or send them the wrong amount or to just not show that you were complete and correct in what you were how you are communicating with them. Overall, it gives a more complete overview from what we're going to be sending to them. And then also it keeps them in the loop where we're not going back and forth all the time. It's all in one place, and it just makes the whole process a lot more effective.
A lot more effective and efficient too. So now we've sent that message to the client. Let's see upon their return how we would then process that as well. So what we can now do, since that was the last subtask, we can mark that overall task as completed. And we can see that the job is now in the client review stage here. So now the task here is essentially to check that client confirmation to see that they're happy with their return. They're happy for us to file it. Let's say, provided they are happy, we can mark that task as complete. What we're going to see now is quite different to how the process would normally work. So because we're marking this task as complete, the job should move to the next stage, but we're going to see it actually move to the last stage where we file the returns now. So what we see now is the job has moved to the last stage instead of going to the invoice stage here. So why has that happened? Well, by clicking on the stage conditions, we can see that only accounts with the bill on TaxDome tag will move into this stage and be sent an invoice. So we give you the option to choose what service and what provider you would like to invoice your clients on. And then on the last stage, we have the client approval, we have the finalized draft. We can now go and file the return for the client. Now, when you're happy the workflow's come to an end, what you can do is simply archive this job to then store it in the CRM so that you can always refer back to it at a later date. And that's the full overview of our corporation tax workflow. Thank you very much for joining today, James, and walking through this flow with us and for pointing out some of the pain points and how TaxDome can really help address them and overcome those challenges. Thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support team and we can help you run through and create your own workflows. Thank you.